The wind howled through the valley like a restless spirit, tugging at the wooden planks of the lonely ranch house. Inside, John Matthews sat in a creaking rocking chair, cradling his newborn son, Thomas, whose wails pierced the cold, starless night. Ever since the accident that had claimed his beloved wife, Mary, 6 months ago, John had been struggling to balance life as a single father. He had mended fences, tended the cattle, and repaired every squeaky board in the old homestead, but nothing could soothe the ceaseless cries of his infant. The sound tore at him, a constant reminder of how fragile life had become, and how unprepared he truly was for fatherhood. Exhaustion weighed on his shoulders, and despair lingered in the corners of the room, thick as the dust motes dancing in the lantern light. John had tried everything, rocking, singing, pacing, but Thomas only seemed to cry harder, his tiny fists flailing in protest of a world that suddenly felt too big, too cold and too lonely. Outside, a pale moonlight fell across the prairie, illuminating the vast emptiness that surrounded the Matthews Ranch. A shadow moved along the horizon, silent and purposeful. Anna, a young Apache woman, had been watching the Matthews homestead for weeks, ever since she had seen the cowboy riding alone through the valley after a hard day of tending his livestock. She had heard whispers from other travelers about the widow struggling with the baby, and something in her heart stirred at the thought of helping a child in need. Anna had learned the ways of healing from her mother, understanding the delicate balance of mothering, nurturing, and instinct that connected a woman to a baby. Though she had no child of her own, she carried an innate gift, a gift she now felt compelled to offer. With a determined step, she crossed the prairie, her soft moccasins making barely a sound, until she reached the Matthews porch, where the glow of a lantern flickered through the window, casting shadows on the wooden boards. A hesitant knock echoed through the night. John, startled from his exhausted stupor, nearly dropped the baby. "Who's there?" he called, his voice hoarse and weary. There was no answer immediately, only the gentle rustle of leaves. Again the knock came, firmer this time. Heart-pounding, John rose, Thomas cradled in one arm, and opened the door. Standing before him was Anna, her dark hair cascading over her shoulders, eyes warm and earnest, a small bundle held close to her chest. "I heard your baby crying," she said softly, her voice melodic against the harsh night wind. "I have milk. He will be comforted." John blinked, unsure if exhaustion had clouded his senses or if this moment was real. He had never met this woman, and yet something in her presence radiated trust and kindness. John hesitated, glancing down at Thomas, who continued to wail as if sensing hope in the stranger's words. I don't know," he stammered. "He's only weeks old." "I don't—" He trailed off, unsure how to refuse a stranger in the dead of night when his baby's cries threatened to shatter his sanity. Anna stepped forward with a reassuring smile, placing a hand gently on his arm. Her touch was warm, steadying, and somehow calming. "He's hungry and you are tired," she said simply. "Let me help. No harm will come." "I only wish to comfort him." There was a sincerity in her tone, a quiet authority that cut through the fog of John's despair. He weighed the risk, the loneliness, and the desperate need for relief. Finally, he nodded, stepping aside. "All right, but just this once," he murmured, his voice thick with relief and apprehension. Anna entered the modest cabin, her movements graceful and measured. She placed Thomas against her chest, whispering soothing words in a language John did not understand. But the effect was immediate. The baby's cries softened into hiccups, then coos, as if recognizing a safe harbor in the stranger's embrace. John watched in awe, a lump forming in his throat as he felt the tight knot of exhaustion and grief begin to unravel. He sank into the rocking chair, his eyes never leaving the tender scene before him. How did you know?" he asked finally, barely above a whisper. Anna smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "A mother knows, and a child deserves comfort," she said. Her words were simple, yet they carried the weight of generations of wisdom and care. The night deepened around the Matthews Ranch, the wind still sighing through the gaps in the wooden walls. John found himself talking to Anna as the baby slept, telling her fragments of his life, of Mary, of the struggles and joys he had faced in raising Thomas alone. She listened quietly, her presence a balm to his weary soul. For the first time in months, John felt a flicker of hope, a sense that he was not entirely alone, that someone could understand the trials of a father forced to navigate a world that had suddenly grown heavy and unkind. When dawn began to break, casting a soft golden glow over the prairie, Anna prepared to leave. She handed John a small herbal poultice and offered him advice on soothing the baby. "Use these herbs and remember," she said, her eyes meeting his with intensity, "nurture him with patience and love. That is the greatest gift a father can give." John nodded, words failing him, but his heart swelling with gratitude. As Anna disappeared into the rising sun, he realized that this night had changed everything, not just for Thomas, but for him as well. There was now a spark of connection, a reminder that life could still offer kindness, even in the harshest of places. Weeks passed, and the memory of that night stayed vivid in John's mind. Anna had become a quiet presence in their lives, visiting often with remedies, advice, and her natural calming touch. Thomas, who had once cried endlessly, now smiled at her, cooing as if recognizing a safe harbor. John felt something he hadn't in months, a sense of relief, hope, and even joy. Each morning, Anna arrived at dawn, helping with chores, soothing the baby, and sharing stories of her people's wisdom. Her laughter filled the cabin, replacing the silence that had weighed so heavily on John's heart. Slowly, he began to confide in her, sharing memories of Mary, his fears of failing as a father, and dreams he had almost forgotten. Anna listened without judgment, guiding him with gentle words and a knowing smile. Over time, friendship blossomed into a bond deeper than either had anticipated. One evening, as the prairie glowed with the colors of sunset, John admitted, "I don't know what I would do without you." Anna smiled softly, replying, "Love brought us together, not fate alone." John felt the warmth of hope, and companionship fill the void left by loss, realizing that life could still offer joy and connection. As Thomas slept peacefully, John turned to the camera, speaking with quiet sincerity. If this story touched your heart, subscribe for more tales of hope, love, and courage in the Wild West.